Colors of the moss are almost a minty green, which is very pretty. It's very pretty when you look closely at it and realize the subtlety of the difference in colors. For example, take this that I'll focus on. Here, a little knoll of green moss with some kind of little mauve flowers popped into the middle of the top of it. A white algae. And a little bit of what looks like a bird's egg. I wonder as I look down into this crack, is it somehow a microclimate, even in this climate? Here's a little covey of what I call geese guys. But I think this is some kind of an Arctic goose. Our big lake is down there. And off this escarpment, as you were driving up here, I saw small falls. And hopefully that's what this trail is going to lead us to. I think it's back behind this little ridge. We're going to go to the right now to Langistigur, whatever that is. And then we'll come back and go to Oxararfoss. Oh, okay. Interesting how these algae patterns almost appear to be writings of some sort. But if they're not, then how do they get those round circles naturally? What's the dynamic? I don't know if we're walking between two parts of a huge volcanic tube, or whether it was just a huge outflowing that just happened to crack at this point, leaving this large, what seems like a large walkway or hallway through it. Apparently the space between these two rocks is more than just quaint. It was also called the hanging place, or the gallows, because for theft the penalty was hanging in the old days. In the very old days, from 930 to 1262, in the old Commonwealth, the executive powers in Iceland were limited. The National Assembly tried cases in accordance with its laws, but verdicts had to be enforced by individuals. In minor cases, fines. Graver cases entailed exile for 3 years or even lifelong outlawry. And if a convicted person flouted the verdict and turned up where he was not allowed to be, he might be killed by the family of his victim. Such cases of vengeance are common in the sagas of the Icelanders. Many place names at Hvalfjörður, this park, are reminders of the harsh punishments inflicted here. Women were drowned in the drowning pool, men beheaded at the execution block split, which may have been in the middle of an island in the Oxar River. Scourge Inlet is probably where offenders were flogged. And Fire Gorgel to the west derives its name from the burning of alleged wizards and witches in witch hunts of the late 17th century. It is ominous as we walk through here, once you put that taint on it. But this large chunk of vertical rock on the left just begs to be called a Norse god with vengeance of some sort. And as I look at this, it appears, particularly right in that area right there, that it could be a goblet or a broken goblet. Just begs for myth. And here the ominous potential grows even graver. We can well imagine the ritual value of a place like this, where the crowds could stand up on these higher pinnacles and look down on the parade that brought the condemned to its site We and our humans do revel in the destruction of our enemies, particularly, I think, those within us. Here's another perspective of our, what I'll call, crucible. It's interesting, the moss grows less abundantly on the ledges on this side than it does this where there's some shade. Probably the same dynamic that we see in our forests, hillsides. This looks like some kind of bird-like creature in the upper right-hand corner. Another great place for enacting dire punishments. This is Oxararfoss. Here's the same big lake from the west side looking east. Anywhere else you'd expect to see boats flying around or people out fishing, but you don't. Probably where we were this morning, or where we camped, is right down there. No, wait a second. Right over there, I think. See that hill? Right on the left-hand side. So somewhere down in there is where that lovely situated home was. And all of this that we're looking at here is Hvalfjörður Park, which we now leave. So we left the park going southwest to the left of the roads. I think it says 361. And we've come down to where that red circle is, and then the line I've drawn indicating Highway 48. And we're going to take that now, just so we can avoid all the traffic and see some country. It's all gravel, I'm sure. Then we'll get up to that T intersection at 47, hang a left, come down to the tunnel, and go on our trip up this way. Previously, we made a shift from the normal, nice graveled road to what is a dirt road. I'm not sure it'll be any worse or better. And maybe it goes back to the normal gravel road made out of volcanic gravel. Because what else is there? Some of the equipment that makes these roads very nicely drivable. We'll get started on 461, which goes this way, and may just follow that route there that met trucks taking and continue on down along that side of the valley. Here they've tapped into the geothermal energy again for something. Don't know what that is. It may just be providing heat for all of the homes in this valley. One of my high school students might be duped into thinking this was sedimentary layers of rock if they didn't know it was Iceland. Probably a geologist can recognize somehow the deterioration of these stone faces to indicate volcanic as opposed to sedimentary. A pan here seems to epitomize this pretty and somewhat remote valley. And the road is now turned into asphalt, which is nice. My guess is that more and more it's used as a route to avoid going towards Reykjavik to get up to Hvalfjörður National Park. What a lovely view these people have. I'm sure it's cloaked in drama much of the year. Beautiful little valley, lake, homes right on the water's edge. What a beautiful spot. I've seen herds, small herds of cows, herds of horses. Don't really know what the horses are used for, although sometimes they're eaten here because they were a food resource in the past, contrary to what more sensitive tourists might think. from somewhere over there, I just came across that bay by tunnel. Amazingly long, high, takes semis easily. It goes probably 2/3 the distance from there to here, going down at a pretty good grade, and then sharply inclines back up to this side. Real kind of a thrill, if a tunnel can be a thrill. They've always been to me. I think a great deal of my trip around the ring road and the peninsulas is going to look somewhat like this. Big mountains in the distance towards the center of whatever the landmass is, but not necessarily so. And then a lot of flats around the perimeter of the island, punctuated by relatively modest, low-lying volcanic features like these. And off in the far distance, in the center of Iceland, it's difficult to distinguish between the ice caps, which I think that is, and maybe that is, but as you go further along, now you're looking at clouds, I think. So, I don't know. Seems like a great spot for a magnificent 360. That's the direction we came from. On an absolutely gorgeous day. 360.